Well, when I signed, actually Ron, who was a big Tony Brown fan, he said, you can enjoy playing with this fella. You know, he's been around a long time, but he's almost like having a revival. And it was really good. I mean, he was one of the most infectious characters I've come across. He was like a bottle of pop, Tony. In the dressing room, on the pitch, you know, he had, his running style was very small steps. And he was like a little scuttler, and, but a great character and a great personality. He's one of those, really, you can imagine him being exactly the same as he was when he finished his career, as when he started. You know, he enjoyed his training. I think he really was literally ate and slept football, and it was always a pleasure to be around him. I mean, he was quite infectious, Tony, and when you see him on the pitch and you see him doing his celebrations, his big smile, and he's almost like he's a perpetual schoolboy, really, I think Tony was. And you know, he really, I think he's one of those characters, when you see him across a room, you can't help but smile. He's got a great sense of humour, very quick-witted, all around football, but, you know, as I say, he's one of those, you want to be in his company. And just when you realise what he's done, I think sometimes you don't realise at the time his contribution, particularly at this club. But then when you reflect on it and you see, and the longevity of his career, the goals he scored, the amount of games he's played, you know, there's not many players do that nowadays. Obviously, you've got your people like Ryan Giggs, you know, Frank Lampard, but there's not many Tony Browns that play that amount of games for one club. I think he's a very genuine guy. I don't think he's got a bad word to say about anybody. If he does, he keeps it to himself. And as I say, I think I tell you, with Jeff Astle, I didn't play with Jeff. I got to know him when I joined, and particularly afterwards. And Jeff was a similar sort of character. I think when you saw Jeff across the room, you couldn't help but smile because you wanted to be in his company. And I think Tony's of that ilk, really. I mean, there's a lot of us within that team were like that, but I think because of Tony's longevity as a player here, the respect that gives him, you know, I think he, every time he played, he left everything on the pitch. Not a lot of us can say that, but I think every time Tony played, he left everything on the pitch. You knew you were getting 100% for Tony. Good, bad or indifferent, you knew he was giving of his best. We used to say to him, look, you know, don't try and tackle Tony. He couldn't tackle a fish supper, Tony. But we used to say, do your bit. You know, we talk about pressing game now. If you were closest to the ball, Bomber, you do it. And he was great. We hated him coming back in the box. He was a disaster coming back in the box. And he used to retort to me, well, you're a disaster in the opposing penalty area, which was actually true. But you knew you could rely on Bomber. And if you were up against it, you always felt that he could get you a goal. One that I remember particularly is I think we played Leeds, up at Leeds, and strong team, and we beat them 3-1. I think we went 1-0 behind. Obviously, they scored first. And Lenny Cantillo was on the most magnificent game. He's one of those games where he couldn't get enough of the ball, and we couldn't give him the ball quickly enough. And I think Lenny had showed for the ball from Bomber. Bomber didn't give it to him, or he ignored him, and I think Lenny gave him a bit of a volley. Not long after that, Bomber got the equaliser. It was one of his classic goals where the ball stuck under his foot, and you think it's almost a surprise that he could generate so much power, and it flew in. And we were running to sort of congratulate him. I remember seeing it. I remember it at the time, but then I saw it again on the telly. He's almost pushing people away because he's so upset that Lenny gave him a bit of a volley. And we were trying to sort of say, come on, Bomber, but he was really upset that Lenny had shouted at him. And I think that was sort of his character, that you knew, good, bad or indifferent, he was given 100%. And that's what he always did.